I was scrolling through my phone during my lunch break when my coworker gasped and showed me her screen. There it was on social media, an elegant wedding invitation with gold lettering announcing my cousin Rachel's beach wedding. The venue address made my blood freeze. It was my address, my private beach house in Monterey Bay that I'd spent 7 years saving for. 200 guests were invited to celebrate at my home in 3 weeks, and nobody had asked me a single question. My hands shook as I set down my turkey sandwich, suddenly losing my appetite completely. The break room at the marketing firm where I worked seemed to spin around me. "Brianna, isn't this your house?" my coworker Jessica asked, zooming in on the invitation's elegant script. The address was unmistakable, 147 Ocean Vista, drive my sanctuary that I'd purchased just 18 months ago after years of sacrifice. Racing back to my desk, I abandoned the client presentation I'd been preparing and pulled up Rachel's social media profile. The post had been up for 6 hours, already accumulating 157 likes and 43 comments. "Can't wait to celebrate at the family estate," someone had written. Family estate. My stomach churned as I read through congratulations from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. The moment 5 o'clock hit, I practically ran to my car, ignoring my manager's question about tomorrow's meeting. The 40-minute drive home felt like hours. My mind raced with possibilities. This had to be some kind of mistake. Maybe Rachel meant to write a different address. Perhaps this was an elaborate prank. But when I pulled into my driveway, my heart sank. There, tucked under my windshield wiper, was a cream-colored envelope. My name was written in the same golden calligraphy as the online invitation. With trembling fingers, I opened it in my car, not even making it inside the house. "The pleasure of your company is requested at the marriage of Rachel Ann Morrison to James Theodore Blackwell." I read aloud to the empty garage. The date was circled in gold 3 weeks from Saturday. The venue line made my vision blur. At the Morrison Family Beach Estate. Morrison Family Beach Estate. The words felt like a slap. This was my house. My name alone was on the deed. I'd spent 7 years living in a studio apartment, eating ramen noodles and working overtime to save the down payment. Every premium coffee I'd skipped, every vacation I'd passed on, every designer purse I'd admired but walked away from had been for this house. I stumbled inside my heels, clicking on the hardwood floors I'd personally selected. The house still smelled faintly of the vanilla candles I'd lit that morning. This was my space, decorated with my carefully chosen furniture, filled with my books and photos. How dare they? My phone rang before I could even set down my purse. Mom's photo flashed on the screen. For a moment I considered not answering, but I needed answers. "Brianna, sweetheart." My mother, Patricia's voice was unusually bright. "Did you get the invitation? Isn't it gorgeous Rachel spent $300 just on the invitations alone? That gold foil is real 24-karat dust." "Mom, what is going on?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Why does Rachel's wedding invitation list my house as the venue?" "Oh, honey, we meant to tell you sooner, but everything's been so hectic with the planning. You know how these things go? We were all at Sunday dinner 2 months ago, and Dorothy mentioned how Rachel was stressed about finding a venue. Everything was either booked or crazy expensive. Then Tyler reminded us about your beautiful beach house, and it was like a light bulb went off. It's perfect. 2 months. They'd been planning this for 2 months without saying a word to me. I sank onto my couch, the one I'd saved 6 months to buy. "Mom, you can't just decide to use my house without asking me. This is my private home, not a wedding venue." Patricia's laugh tinkled through the phone. "Oh, Brianna, don't be silly. It's not like we're strangers. We're family, and you'll be at the wedding anyway. Your sister Melissa has already arranged the catering. You should see the menu she selected. They're doing these amazing bacon-wrapped scallops and a seafood tower that costs $800 alone. Melissa ordered catering to be delivered to my house. My voice rose an octave. Well, of course she got a fantastic deal because she booked it through her friend who owns that upscale place downtown. Everything's coming together so beautifully. Oh, and Dorothy hired the most amazing photographers. They've already been by to scout locations. The room tilted. What do you mean they've been by? They needed to plan their shots, sweetheart. Don't worry, Tyler gave them your gate code so they didn't have to bother you at work. They said the deck is absolutely perfect for the ceremony, and that little gazebo you have will be ideal for photos. My gate code. My brother had given strangers my security gate code. I pulled up my phone, fingers flying to my security app. Sure enough, there were alerts I'd dismissed as delivery notifications, but when I reviewed the footage, my blood ran cold. 2 weeks ago, while I was in a client meeting, 3 people had wandered around my property with clipboards and cameras. 1 week ago, a different group had spent 40 minutes on my deck measuring and taking notes. They'd tested my electrical outlets, examined my outdoor speakers, and even looked through my windows. Mom, I have to go. I hung up before she could respond. My sanctuary had been invaded, treated like public property while I sat in meetings blissfully unaware. The violation felt like ice in my veins. This house represented everything I'd worked for, every dream I'd chased despite my family's doubts. I remembered the day I'd told them I was saving for a house. Tyler had laughed, saying I'd never stick to a budget. Melissa had rolled her eyes, predicting I'd give up within 6 months, like I had with my gym membership in college. Dad had patted my head condescendingly, suggesting I focus on finding a husband who could provide a house instead. But I'd done it, all on my own, and now they were claiming it as theirs. My phone buzzed with text after text. Aunt Dorothy sending me pictures of flower arrangements to choose from. Melissa forwarding catering contracts with my address already filled in. Tyler asking if I could move my car from the garage that weekend so the DJ could store equipment there. The final straw was a message from Rachel herself. Thanks for letting us use the family beach house, 'cause can't wait for you to see how beautiful everything will look. Heart emoji, heart emoji, heart emoji. Family beach house. The words burned into my brain as I stared at my view of Monterey Bay waves crashing against the private beach I'd fallen in love with at first sight. This wasn't just about a wedding anymore. This was about respect boundaries and the lifetime of entitlement my family had always shown. They'd made a terrible mistake. They'd assumed I was the same pushover who'd let them copy my homework in school, who'd covered for their mistakes, who'd always put family first even when it meant putting myself last. But buying this house had changed me. I'd learned to fight for what I wanted, to value my own worth. As the sun set over the Pacific, casting golden light through my windows, I made a decision. They wanted to play games with my property, fine. But they'd forgotten one crucial detail. My name was the only one on the deed, and possession, as they say, is 9/10 of the law. The wedding was in 3 weeks. That gave me plenty of time to teach my family a lesson they'd never forget. The next morning, I called in sick to work something I'd done maybe twice in my entire 6-year career at the firm. My boss, Sandra, expressed concern, offering to push back my client deadlines. The guilt gnawed at me briefly, but this situation demanded immediate attention. By 8:30, I was driving the familiar route to my childhood home in Salinas, about an hour inland from my beach house. The contrast always struck me, leaving my serene oceanfront paradise for the crowded suburbs where I'd grown up, where houses sat so close together you could hear your neighbor's television through the walls. Mom had texted that everyone was gathering for Saturday morning brunch to discuss wedding details. Perfect. I'd have my entire family in one room. I parked behind Tyler's oversized pickup truck, the one he'd bought despite barely affording his rent. Melissa's white Mercedes, a gift from her husband David, gleamed in the driveway. Aunt Dorothy's Lexus took up 2 spaces as usual. The front door was unlocked, another family habit I'd never understood. I walked through the house that still smelled like coffee and my mother's lavender potpourri past the wall of family photos, where my college graduation picture sat small and slightly crooked while Tyler's high school football portraits dominated the space. Voices and laughter drifted from the dining room. I paused in the doorway, taking in the scene. They'd pushed together the dining table with 2 card tables to accommodate everyone. Wedding magazines, fabric swatches, and color-coordinated binders covered every surface. Rachel sat at the center like a queen holding court, her engagement ring catching the light as she gestured excitedly. Brianna. My grandmother Ellen noticed me first. At 83, she still had eagle eyes. Come sit, darling. We're just deciding between ivory and champagne for the table runners. Every face turned toward me. Mom beamed, Dad barely glanced up from his newspaper, and Tyler smirked while scrolling his phone. Melissa paused mid-bite of her croissant, and Aunt Dorothy waved a fabric sample at me. Actually, I need to talk to all of you about the wedding venue. I remained standing, gripping my purse strap for support. Rachel's perfectly shaped eyebrows drew together. What about it? Did you get the information about the tent rental? They need a check for the deposit by Monday. There isn't going to be a tent rental, Rachel. You can't have your wedding at my house. The silence that followed was deafening. Then, like a dam burst, everyone started talking at once. Brianna, what are you saying? Mom's voice rose above the chaos. Everything's already arranged. That's exactly the problem, I said, working to keep my voice level. Everything's been arranged without anyone asking me if I was okay with hosting 200 people at my private home. Dad finally looked up from his newspaper, his expression stern. Brianna Marie, sit down. You're being ridiculous. No, Dad. I'm being a homeowner whose property rights are being violated. Tyler snorted. Property rights, come on, Bree. It's not like we're random strangers. We're your family. Family who gave out my gate code to vendors. Family who let photographers case my house while I was at work. Family who's been calling my personal residence the Morrison Family Beach Estate, when not a single Morrison besides me has contributed a cent to it. Now you're just being selfish, Melissa interjected, setting down her coffee cup with a sharp clink. Do you have any idea how much Rachel would have to pay to rent a venue like yours? We're talking $30,000 minimum. Exactly. Aunt Dorothy chimed in, her voice shrill. Why should Rachel waste money on some stranger's venue when we have a perfectly good family property available? It's not family property. The words exploded from me. It's my property. I saved for 7 years. I went without vacations, drove the same beat-up Honda until it literally died on the freeway, lived in a studio apartment where I could touch both walls at the same time. None of you helped. None of you even believed I could do it. Grandmother Ellen's weathered hand reached for mine. Sweetheart, I seem to remember your parents helping you through college. That money could have gone toward their own beach house, but they invested in your future instead. The manipulation was masterful, delivered with a gentle smile that had probably worked on me 100 times before. But not today. They paid for 2 years of community college, Grandma. I took out loans for the rest, which I'm still paying off. And if we're keeping score, should I mention the $10,000 I loaned Tyler for his failed food truck business, or the $5,000 I gave Melissa for her first divorce lawyer? That's different. Tyler muttered, his face reddening. How? How is it different? Because when I needed help, it was family obligation. But when I have something you want, it's suddenly family property. Rachel, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly burst into tears. Not gentle, dignified tears, but full-on sobbing that made her mascara run in black rivers down her cheeks. I can't believe you're doing this to me, she wailed. This is supposed to be the happiest time of my life, and you're ruining it. All my friends have already saved the date. James's mother has told everyone at the country club. Do you want me to be humiliated? Maybe you should have thought of that before sending out invitations to my house, I said, though her tears tugged at my resolve. Mom wrapped an arm around Rachel, shooting me a look that could freeze hell. Look what you've done. Your cousin has been dreaming of a beach wedding since she was 6 years old. Then she should have started saving like I did when I was 25, I retorted. Not everyone is a workaholic loner like you, Brianna, Melissa said with a cruel smile. Some of us have actual lives, families to take care of. We can't all live like hermits eating soup from cans to save pennies. The words stung, but they also fueled my anger. Yes, I'd lived frugally. Yes, I'd prioritized my goal over dating or socializing, but that was my choice, my sacrifice, and my reward. Dad stood up, his 6'2" frame meant to be intimidating. Enough of this nonsense. The wedding is in 3 weeks. Deposits have been paid. People have been invited. You will host this wedding, or you can consider yourself no longer part of this family. The ultimatum hung in the air like smoke. Everyone watched me, waiting for me to fold like I always had. The good daughter, the reliable sister, the accommodating cousin. You know what's interesting? I pulled out my phone, scrolling to a saved screenshot. Aunt Dorothy has been giving virtual tours of my house to relatives, telling them it's been in the family for generations. Dorothy's face went pale. That's not... I have the emails, Dorothy. Cousin Marie from Portland forwarded them to me, confused about when our family acquired a beach house. You told her our great-grandfather built it in 1952. My house was constructed in 2018. It was just a little white lie to make the family look good, Dorothy stammered. You know how Marie always brags about her husband's family money. And this. I pulled up another screenshot. Rachel's future mother-in-law, Judge Blackwell, posted in her country club's Facebook group about attending a wedding at the historic Morrison family compound. She's even arranged a tour for her garden club the day before the wedding. Rachel's tears stopped abruptly. You're Facebook friends with James's mother. No, but her privacy settings are terrible. The point is, you've all created an elaborate lie that's gotten completely out of control. And when it falls apart, which it will, you'll expect me to go along with it to save face. So what if we told a few small fibs? Tyler shrugged. It's not hurting anyone. It's hurting me. You're treating my biggest accomplishment like it's community property. What's next? Are you going to start booking family reunions there, Thanksgiving dinners, maybe rent it out for some extra cash? The guilty looks that flashed across several faces told me I'd hit close to home. And another thing, I continued on a roll now, has anyone considered the liability? 200 people on my property. What if someone gets hurt? What if they damage something? Who's paying for insurance security cleanup? Details, Mom waved dismissively. We'll work all that out. No, we won't, because it's not happening. Find another venue. Rachel stood up so fast her chair scraped against the hardwood. I hate you. You've always been jealous of me. Ever since high school when I was homecoming queen and you were just the nerdy girl in the library. Now that it's finally my turn to shine, you can't stand it. This isn't about jealousy, Rachel. This is about respect. And clearly none of you have any for me or my property. Your property, Dad repeated mockingly. You sound like some greedy landlord. Whatever happened to family helping family? It died when family started lying about owning my accomplishments, I shot back. Grandma Ellen shook her head sadly. I never thought I'd see the day when money mattered more to you than family, Brianna. Your grandfather would be so disappointed. The emotional manipulation was thick, but I'd reached my limit. Grandpa would be proud that I worked hard and achieved my goal. He's the one who taught me that nobody owes you anything just because you share DNA. Get out, Mom said quietly, but her voice carried more venom than any shout. Get out of this house right now, and don't come back until you're ready to apologize to Rachel and honor your family obligations. I looked around the table at faces twisted with anger, entitlement, and disbelief. These people who claimed to love me but saw my success as something they deserved access to, who viewed my boundaries as selfishness and my self-respect as greed. "Fine," I said, gathering my purse. "But when this all blows up in your faces, remember that you chose a lie over respecting my simple request to ask permission before using my home." As I walked to the door, Tyler called out, "You'll change your mind. You always do. Family guilt will eat at you, and by tomorrow you'll be calling to apologize." I paused at the threshold, looking back one last time. "You're right about one thing, Tyler. Family guilt is powerful. But you know what's more powerful? The deed to my house with only my name on it, and the locks I'm changing this afternoon." The door slammed behind me with a satisfying bang. As I drove away, my phone exploded with texts and calls. I turned it off, focusing on the road ahead. They thought they knew me, thought I'd cave like I always had, but they'd made a crucial miscalculation. The woman who'd saved for 7 years, who'd sacrificed and planned and achieved her dream, wasn't the same girl they'd pushed around growing up. And they were about to learn that lesson the hard way. Sunday morning arrived with an unwelcome surprise. I'd spent Saturday changing locks, updating my security codes, and installing new cameras around the property. The locksmith had raised an eyebrow at the urgency, but hadn't asked questions when I'd paid cash for rush service. I was enjoying my first cup of coffee on the deck, watching dolphins play in the distance, when a large truck rumbled up my private drive. Monterey Party Rentals was emblazoned on the side in cheerful blue letters. 2 men hopped out and began unloading folding chairs onto my driveway. "Excuse me," I called out, setting down my mug and hurrying over. "What are you doing?" The older man, whose shirt identified him as Steve, consulted his clipboard. "Morrison Blackwell wedding. We're dropping off the early inventory. Tent goes up next Saturday." "There's been a mistake. This wedding isn't happening here. Please reload everything." Steve frowned. "Lady, I've got a signed contract and a deposit. Says here Dorothy Morrison authorized delivery starting today. We've got 3 trucks of stuff coming." My hands clenched into fists. "I'm the homeowner and I'm telling you to leave. Now!" "Look, I sympathize, but I can't just eat a $20,000 order. You'll need to sort this out with the client." He handed me a business card. "Call my boss if you want, but we're just doing our job." Before I could respond, another truck pulled up, then another. Within 30 minutes, my pristine driveway looked like a wedding supply warehouse. Stacks of gold Chiavari chairs boxes labeled crystal centerpieces, sound equipment, and even portable restrooms sat on my property like an invasion. I called the rental company owner, threatened legal action, cited trespassing laws. He was sympathetic but firm without the client canceling and paying hefty fees. He couldn't remove the items. They were now my problem until someone paid for their removal. My phone, which I'd turned back on to make business calls, buzzed incessantly. I had 47 texts from family members ranging from pleading to threatening. The most alarming came from Tyler. "Hope you like the wedding presents. More coming tomorrow unless you stop being stubborn." I tried calling Rachel directly. James answered her phone. "Brianna, thank God. What's this about you canceling our venue? Rachel's been crying all night. Her mother is threatening to withdraw their financial support if we don't have the beach wedding they've been bragging about." "James, I never agreed to host your wedding. They planned this without asking me." His pause was telling. "They said it was all arranged, that you were excited to host." Rachel showed me texts. "What texts?" Another pause. "Screenshots of messages where you supposedly agreed, but your writing style seems different now that I think about it." "James, I need you to understand something. This is my private home, not a venue. I've been trying to cancel vendors, but the contracts aren't in my name. I'm being held hostage by my own family's lies." God. His voice was strained. "This is such a mess. My mother's already invited her entire social circle. She'll be mortified if we change venues now. That's not my problem, James. I'm sorry you're caught in the middle, but I won't be bullied into hosting 200 strangers at my home. He sighed heavily. I'll talk to Rachel. Maybe we can figure something out. But by Monday, things had only gotten worse. I'd taken a personal day from work to deal with the chaos, spending hours on the phone with lawyers and vendor companies. That's when I noticed something odd on my credit monitoring app, a hard inquiry from a lending company I'd never heard of. My blood went cold. I immediately called the company. Yes, Ms. Morrison, we received your application for a home equity line of credit last week, the representative informed me. For $200,000 against your Monterey Bay property. It's currently in processing. I never applied for any loan. This is fraud. Oh. The representative's tone shifted. Let me transfer you to our fraud department immediately. 2 hours and multiple departments later, I learned the ugly truth. Someone had applied for a loan in my name using my social security number and property information. The application claimed the funds were for family estate improvements. The signature was a decent forgery of mine. I knew immediately who was behind this. Only one person in my family had both the skill and audacity to attempt identity theft, Tyler. He'd always been good with computers and had helped me set up my online banking years ago. I'd changed my password since, but he knew enough personal information to be dangerous. As if confirming my suspicions, my doorbell camera alerted me to movement. I pulled up the app to see Tyler himself at my gate with another man in a suit. Marcus, I whispered, recognizing my ex-boyfriend. We'd dated for 2 years in college before his ambition to become a real estate mogul drove us apart. Last I'd heard, he'd achieved his dreams and owned half the commercial property in Carmel. They were walking the perimeter of my property, Marcus taking photos while Tyler gestured animatedly. Even without audio, I could see he was giving a sales pitch. I grabbed my keys and stormed outside. What the hell are you doing? Both men turned. Marcus had the decency to look embarrassed, but Tyler just grinned. Hey, sis. Just showing Marcus around. He saw Rachel's wedding post and was interested in the property. Figured since you're being difficult about family using it, maybe you'd be ready to sell. Get off my property, both of you, now. Marcus stepped forward, hands raised peacefully. Brianna, I had no idea about the family drama. Tyler said you were considering selling, that the family had decided to liquidate the estate. There is no estate, I shouted. This is my house, mine alone. Tyler has no authority to show it, discuss it, or even think about it. Is that why you're trying to steal it with a fraudulent loan application? I turned to Tyler, whose grin faltered. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? So you didn't apply for a $200,000 home equity loan in my name last week? The fraud department at Secured Lending would disagree. Marcus took a step back. Whoa. Tyler, you said she agreed to the loan for wedding expenses. She's lying, Tyler said, but sweat beaded on his forehead. She's just trying to make me look bad because she's being selfish about the house. I pulled out my phone. Should I call the police now, or would you prefer to leave voluntarily? Marcus was already backing toward his Tesla. I'm out. Tyler, you told me this was a legitimate family transaction. I don't deal with fraud. He looked at me apologetically. Brianna, I'm sorry. I had no idea. After they left, I sat on my porch steps, shaking with anger. The situation was spiraling beyond family drama into criminal territory. I called my lawyer friend Jennifer, who agreed to meet me immediately. This is serious, Brianna, she said after reviewing the documents I'd gathered. Identity theft, attempted fraud, trespassing. Your brother could face jail time. I don't want him in jail. I just want this to stop. Then you need leverage. Document everything. File police reports. Get restraining orders if necessary. Your family is escalating because they think you'll cave. Show them you won't. That evening, exhausted and emotionally drained, I made the mistake of checking social media. Rachel had posted a series of wedding countdown photos, all featuring my house from various angles. The comments were filled with excitement from guests. "Can't wait to see the historic Morrison estate. Your family must be so proud to have such a beautiful heritage property. The beach ceremony will be absolutely magical." But one comment made my heart stop. It was from Judge Blackwell James's mother. "I've arranged for Architectural Digest to cover the wedding. They're doing a feature on historic family compounds. The photographer will arrive Friday before the ceremony." Architectural Digest, a national magazine, at my house without my permission. I screenshot everything and forwarded it to Jennifer with a simple message, "Now what?" Her response was swift. "Now we go nuclear. Save every communication. Tomorrow we file for an emergency restraining order. Your family wants to play. Let's show them what legal boundaries really mean." As I prepared for bed, my phone rang. An unknown number, but something made me answer. "Is this Brianna Morrison?" A woman's voice, professional and cold. "Yes." "This is Amanda Chen from Miller Realty. I'm calling to schedule the photographer for your property listing. Tyler Morrison said you're eager to get the house on the market before the wedding to maximize exposure." "There is no listing," I practically screamed. "Tyler Morrison has no authority to sell my house?" "I see. Well, this is awkward. He's already signed preliminary paperwork as the family representative. Said you were too emotional about the sale to handle it yourself." "He what?" "I'm sensing some family miscommunication here. I'll put everything on hold until this is sorted out. Good evening." I hung up and immediately checked every real estate website I could think of. There it was on Zillow, "Coming soon, stunning Monterey Bay beach estate. Historic family compound available for first time in generations. Contact Tyler Morrison for exclusive preview." My sanctuary, my achievement, my life's work, being advertised for sale by my thief of a brother while my entitled family planned a wedding I'd explicitly forbidden. I'd wanted to handle this civilly, to set boundaries without destroying relationships, but they'd made that impossible. Opening my laptop, I began typing an email to Jennifer. "File everything. Restraining orders, fraud charges, theft reports. Maximum legal pressure. They want war. They've got it." As I hit send, I felt something shift inside me. The guilt I'd carried about standing up to my family evaporated, replaced by cold determination. They'd crossed every line, violated every boundary, committed actual crimes against me. Tomorrow they'd learn what happened when you mistook kindness for weakness. When you assumed family bonds gave you the right to steal, lie, and destroy. My name was Brianna Morrison. I'd bought this house with my own blood, sweat, and tears. And I'd burn every bridge before I let them take it from me. At 2 a.m, I sat at my kitchen table with 3 cups of coffee, 2 legal pads, and a determination that could move mountains. Sleep was impossible with wedding equipment cluttering my driveway and the knowledge that my brother was actively trying to sell my home. But somewhere between the 2nd and 3rd cup of coffee, inspiration struck. If my family wanted to treat my house like a business property, then I'd make it one, officially, legally, irrevocably. I opened my laptop and began researching vacation rental companies. Not the casual peer-to-peer platforms, but luxury property management firms that catered to exclusive clientele. By 3:30, I'd found my target, Coastal Elite Retreats, a company that managed high-end properties from Malibu to Mendocino. Their website promised complete property management, professional security, and most importantly, ironclad contracts that protected both owners and the company's reputation. Perfect. I drafted an email to their acquisitions department explaining I had an oceanfront property available for immediate exclusive rental starting the weekend of Rachel's wedding. I emphasized the urgency and mentioned I was fielding multiple offers, which wasn't entirely untrue given Tyler's attempts to sell it. By 6 a.m., my phone rang. Coastal Elite's regional director Nathaniel Winters was interested. Very interested. Ms. Morrison, properties like yours rarely become available for our portfolio. When can we view it? This morning, if possible, but there's a slight complication. I explained the wedding situation, expecting him to hang up. Instead, he chuckled. Family assuming access to vacation properties is our bread and butter. You'd be amazed how often we deal with entitled relatives. We have entire protocols for this. Can we meet at 9? Relief flooded through me. Absolutely. I spent the next 2 hours cleaning frantically, hiding personal photos, and making my house look like the luxury property it truly was. When Nathaniel arrived with his team, I was ready. He whistled appreciatively as he toured the grounds. Breathtaking. With the private beach access and those views, we could get $15,000 a week easily, $20,000 during peak season. What about the weekend of the 15th, the one my family planned the wedding? He consulted his tablet. I have a client who's been searching for a Monterey property for his anniversary. Tech executive, very discreet, pays premium for privacy. I could offer him exclusive use for, shall we say, $30,000 for the weekend. My knees nearly buckled. That would work. Excellent. Now let's discuss security. We provide comprehensive protection for our properties. Guards, cameras, the works. Nobody accesses the property without our authorization, period. As we talked, my phone buzzed constantly. 43 missed calls, 97 texts. I ignored them all. Nathaniel's lawyer arrived within the hour with contracts. We spent 3 hours going through every detail. The rental agreement was airtight. My property would be under Coastal Elite's exclusive management for the next 6 months with immediate effect. They'd handle all security maintenance and access control. Any unauthorized entry would be treated as criminal trespass. One question, the lawyer said. The rental equipment in your driveway, should we have it removed? Can you do that? Ms. Morrison, we've dealt with everything from angry exes to squatting relatives. A few party chairs or child's play. We'll handle it professionally and document everything for potential legal action. By 2 p.m., I'd signed papers making my beach house officially off limits to everyone except paying clients. Coastal Elite security team would arrive tomorrow to change locks again, install their proprietary security system, and begin the formal conversion to a luxury rental. What about mail? I asked. I'll need to access the property occasionally. Of course. As the owner, you'll have a special access code, but I'd recommend scheduling visits in advance to avoid any conflicts with renters. We'll forward all mail to your designated address. I provided my office address, then remembered something crucial. My family might try to claim they have belongings here or need access for various reasons. How do you handle that? Nathaniel's smile was sharp. We have a beautiful form letter explaining that the property is under professional management, and all requests must go through our legal department. It usually stops casual attempts. For persistent problems, we have a security company on retainer that specializes in discouragements. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. Thank you. This is exactly what I needed. Ms. Morrison, may I be frank? Nathaniel set down his tablet. I've been in this business 15 years. I've seen every family drama imaginable play out over property. What your family is doing, it's more common than you'd think. You're not wrong to protect your investment. His validation nearly brought tears to my eyes. They make me feel like I'm being selfish, like I'm choosing property over family. You're choosing self-respect over exploitation. There's a difference. Now shall we discuss how you'd like us to handle the wedding day situation? We strategized for another hour. Coastal Elite would have security in place by Thursday. On Saturday, when the wedding party arrived, they'd find professional guards who'd politely but firmly explain that the property was booked by private clients. All vendors would be turned away with documentation showing they were attempting delivery to a commercial property without proper contracts. "We'll document everything," Nathaniel assured me. "Every interaction, every attempted access. If anyone becomes aggressive, we involve law enforcement immediately." "What about the items already in my driveway?" "Our team will inventory everything tomorrow, contact the rental companies, and arrange removal. If they refuse, we'll have everything moved to our secure storage and bill them for the service. We're very good at encouraging compliance." As they prepared to leave, Jennifer arrived for our scheduled legal meeting. I introduced her to the Coastal Elite team and they exchanged cards. "Smart move," she said after they left. "This creates a paper trail showing the property is a business asset, not a family playground. It'll strengthen any legal action we need to take." We spent the next 3 hours documenting everything: the fraudulent loan application, Tyler's attempts to list my house for sale, the trespassing, the vendor contracts signed without my consent. Jennifer organized it all into a compelling case file. "I've prepared cease and desist letters for each family member involved," she said, sliding papers across the table. "They'll be served tomorrow. I've also drafted a restraining order against Tyler, specifically given the identity theft." "Will he really go to jail?" "That depends on him. If he backs off, shows remorse, makes restitution, the DA might go easy. If he persists..." She shrugged. "Identity theft is a felony. He could face 2 to 5 years. The reality of it made my stomach churn. "I just want this to stop." "Then we make it stop. Legally, professionally, no more playing nice." That evening, I ordered takeout and ate alone on my deck, possibly for the last time in months. Tomorrow, this would be a commercial property. Strangers would enjoy my view, sleep in my bedroom, cook in my kitchen. But at least they'd be paying strangers, not entitled family. My phone rang. Melissa's husband, David. I almost didn't answer, but decided to gauge the family temperature. "Brianna, what's this about fraud charges?" His voice was tight. "Melissa's freaking out. Says Tyler might be arrested." "Tyler committed identity theft, David. He tried to take out a loan against my house. What did you expect me to do?" "Drop the charges. Handle it within the family. You don't air dirty laundry in public." "Like advertising my house for sale on Zillow. That kind of public..." Silence. Then, "He what?" I forwarded him the listing. His sharp intake of breath was audible. Jesus Christ. "Brianna, I had no idea it had gone this far. Melissa said you were just being stubborn about the wedding." "The wedding was just the beginning. They're trying to steal my house, David. Actually steal it." "I'll talk to Melissa. This is beyond acceptable. But please think about the restraining order. It'll destroy the family." "The family destroyed itself when they decided my property was theirs to use and sell. I'm just protecting what's mine." After we hung up, I blocked every family member's number except David's. Tomorrow would bring new battles, but tonight I needed peace. I walked through my house one last time as a private residence touching walls. I'd painted myself running fingers over countertops I'd saved months to afford. By tomorrow afternoon, it would all be under corporate control. Safe from my family's grasping hands, but no longer fully mine either. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd worked 7 years to buy this house, only to have to rent it out to protect it from the people who should have celebrated my success. But as I settled into bed listening to the waves crash against my private beach, I felt something I hadn't experienced in days control. My family had forced this nuclear option, but I'd found a way to protect my asset while teaching them a lesson. The wedding was in 6 days. The tech executive would be enjoying his romantic anniversary in my home, while 200 wedding guests discovered what boundaries really meant. For the first time since seeing that invitation, I smiled. "Let them come. Coastal Elite security would be waiting. Saturday morning dawned crystal clear over Monterey Bay, one of those perfect California days that photographers dream about. From my office in downtown Monterey, where I'd been staying at a colleague's guest room, I opened my laptop to access Coastal Elite's security feed of my property. Nathaniel had given me full remote viewing access, and I'd barely slept knowing today would bring the confrontation I'd been both dreading and anticipating. At 5:47 a.m., the first vehicle appeared on my private road, a massive white truck with enchanted events scripted on the side. I watched as it stopped at my new security gate where two uniformed guards stood like sentinels. The driver gestured wildly, pointing at paperwork. One guard, a woman who looked like she could bench press the truck, calmly shook her head and handed him a laminated card. Even without audio, I could see the driver's confusion turn to frustration. By 6:15, 3 more trucks had joined the queue. Flower delivery catering tent installation. The narrow private road was becoming a parking lot. I sipped my coffee and watched the show unfold. At 6:30, my blocked phone exploded with attempted calls. I'd given Jennifer and David special ringtones, so when David's tone played, I answered. "Brianna, what's happening? Melissa just got a call from the caterer saying they can't access the venue. She's having a meltdown." "The property is under rental contract, David. There are paying clients there this weekend." "You actually went through with it, Jesus, Brianna. The wedding is in 4 hours." "Then they'd better find a new venue fast." He hung up. I returned to watching the security feed. By 7 a.m., the real circus began. Cars started arriving. Aunt Dorothy's Lexus led the parade, followed by Mom's Honda Tyler's truck, and what looked like half the Morrison extended family. The security team remained unfazed professionally, turning away each vehicle and handing out Coastal Elite's official notice. At 7:23, I noticed something odd on one of the side cameras. A figure was attempting to climb my fence near the beach access. The person was struggling, clearly not an experienced climber, and was that Uncle Pete? At 63, he was trying to infiltrate my property like some geriatric ninja. Security was already moving. The male guard approached just as Pete tumbled back onto the public side landing in a patch of ice plant. Even from the camera, I could see him gesturing angrily, probably claiming family rights or some such nonsense. My phone rang. "Jennifer." "Are you watching this?" she asked, sounding both amused and concerned. "Better than Netflix." "I've got the police on standby if things escalate. The restraining order against Tyler was approved yesterday, by the way. He should have been served last night." "Good to know." I watched Tyler's truck do another aggressive pass by the gate. He seems to be testing the boundaries. Document everything, every attempted entry, every confrontation. We're building a beautiful case for harassment. At 8 a.m., things reached a crescendo. A news van appeared. Actual media probably alerted by someone in the family trying to shame me publicly. But Coastal Elite was prepared for this too. Nathaniel himself appeared on camera looking every inch the corporate executive in his tailored suit. I called him. "I see you're handling the media." "Part of the service, Ms. Morrison. We've dealt with worse. I'm explaining that this is a private property matter and directing them to our legal department. They'll get bored soon." But then I saw something that made my heart skip. Rachel in full wedding regalia stumbling out of a limo. Her dress was a confection of lace and tulle that probably cost more than I made in a month. Her face was already streaked with tears, makeup running in rivers. Behind her came James, looking deeply uncomfortable in his tuxedo, and then Judge Blackwell. James's mother looked like thunder personified, her mouth a thin line of disapproval as she surveyed the chaos. "Oh no," I whispered. The judge marched straight to the security guard, her posture suggesting she was used to being obeyed. The guard remained politely immovable. Judge Blackwell gestured sharply, pointed at Rachel, pulled out her phone. The guard simply handed her the same laminated card and smiled. Then the judge spotted the news camera. I watched in fascination as Judge Blackwell's entire demeanor changed. She grabbed James's arm, steering him away from the cameras. Rachel tried to follow, but the judge held up a hand, stopping her. Even without audio, the family dynamics were clear. The judge was protecting her son's image at all costs. At 8:30, Nathaniel called me. "Ms. Morrison, things are escalating. Your brother just tried to ram the gate with his truck. We're calling police." "Is the gate damaged?" "Barely a scratch. We install military-grade barriers, but attempted property destruction is a crime, and with his restraining order—" I understood. Tyler had just violated a court order on camera. Within minutes, police cruisers appeared on the feed. I watched Tyler being questioned, his face red with rage. He gestured wildly at the house, at the guards, at the sky. The officers remained unmoved. When one approached with handcuffs, Tyler's bravado crumbled. My phone rang. Unknown number, but something made me answer. "Ms. Morrison," a cultured female voice. "This is Judge Helen Blackwell. I believe we need to talk." My mouth went dry. "Judge Blackwell." "I'm standing outside what was supposed to be my son's wedding venue, watching your brother being arrested, surrounded by news cameras and 200 confused guests. Would you care to explain what's happening here?" I took a deep breath. "Your future daughter-in-law's family planned a wedding at my private home without my consent. When I refused, they escalated to fraud and attempted theft. I protected my property by placing it under professional management." Silence. Then, "Without your consent, Rachel assured us this was a family property." "Judge Blackwell, I bought this house 18 months ago with my own money. My name is the sole one on the deed. Your son and Rachel have been lied to." "I see." Her tone was arctic. "And the arrest?" "My brother attempted to take out a fraudulent loan against my property and tried to sell it without my authorization. He also just rammed a security gate in violation of a restraining order." Another pause. "Ms. Morrison, I apologize for my family's involvement in this situation. We were clearly misled. I'll be handling things from here." She hung up. On the security feed, I watched her gather James and march toward their car, leaving Rachel standing alone in her wedding dress as guests milled about in confusion. My phone immediately rang again. "Mom." I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Her voice was shrill, hysterical. "Are you happy now Tyler's being arrested? Rachel's been abandoned at the altar. The whole family is humiliated. This is what you wanted, isn't it?" "What I wanted was for you to ask permission before planning a wedding at my house. Everything else is a consequence of your choices." "It's just a house, Brianna, just wood and glass. Is it worth destroying your family?" "You destroyed the family when you decided my accomplishments were yours to claim. When you lied, committed fraud, and tried to steal from me. I just protected what was mine." "We're your family!" she screamed. "No," I said quietly. "Family respects each other. Family celebrates each other's success without trying to claim it. Family asks permission. You're just people who happen to share my DNA." I hung up and turned off my phone. On the security feed, the chaos continued. Wedding guests wandered around confused. Vendors demanded payment for services they couldn't provide. The news crew interviewed anyone willing to talk, and plenty of extended families seemed eager to share their version of events. But one image stuck with me: Rachel sitting on the curb in her beautiful dress, surrounded by the wreckage of her wedding day. For a moment, sympathy tugged at me. She'd been caught up in the family's lies and entitlement, buying into a fantasy that was never real. Then I remembered she'd posted my address to 200 people without asking. She'd called it the family estate. She'd participated in the lie every step of the way. By 10 a.m., the crowd had largely dispersed. Coastal Elite's cleaning crew arrived to remove any debris. The news van left, probably rushing to edit their footage for the evening broadcast. The wedding that never was had become local news. Nathaniel called one last time. "Ms. Morrison, the property is secure. The renters are arriving this afternoon as scheduled. We'll have the full incident report to you and your attorney by Monday. Thank you for everything." "It's what we do. Though I must say this was one of our more dramatic property takeovers. Your family doesn't do anything halfway." "Former family," I corrected. "Ah, well, your former family certainly knows how to make a scene. The footage should be very useful for any legal proceedings." As I closed the laptop, exhaustion hit me like a wave. It was over. The confrontation I dreaded and planned for had played out exactly as expected, yet somehow worse. Tyler was in jail. Rachel's wedding was ruined. The family was humiliated on local news. But my house was safe. My boundaries were enforced. My property was protected. I'd won. So why did victory feel so hollow? By evening, the story had gone viral. Entitled "Family Plans? Wedding at Relative's House Without Permission," read the headline on the local news website. The video showed Tyler being arrested, Rachel crying in her wedding dress, and confused guests milling about. Someone had leaked the full story to the media, complete with screenshots of the fake invitation claiming my house was a family estate. I sat in my temporary apartment laptop, open watching my family's dirty laundry air across social media. The comments ranged from supportive to scathing. "Good for her family doesn't mean free access to your property." What kind of people plan a wedding without asking the homeowner? That poor bride, though. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. My work phone rang. Sandra, my boss. "Brianna, I just saw the news. Are you okay? They said someone was arrested at your house." I gave her the abbreviated version. Her gasp was audible. "They did what your family planned, a whole wedding without asking you. That's insane." "It's been a rough week." "Take Monday off. Hell, take the whole week. You've got vacation time saved up, and frankly, you look exhausted on the news footage." I hadn't realized I'd been caught on camera. "What footage?" "Someone filmed you through the security gate earlier. You were talking to someone in a suit. You look professional but tired. The comments are pretty sympathetic to you, actually." After we hung up, I searched for the footage. There I was, looking composed but clearly strained, speaking with Nathaniel. The comments underneath were surprisingly supportive, with many sharing their own stories of entitled relatives. My phone buzzed with a text from David. "Melissa wants to come over. She says she has information you need to hear." I was tired, emotionally drained, and wanted nothing more than to hide under blankets with wine and terrible TV. But curiosity won. Fine. 7 p.m. at the Starbucks on Alvarado. Neutral ground seemed safest. I arrived early, securing a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. Melissa walked in at exactly 7, and I barely recognized her. Gone was her usual perfect makeup and designer clothes. She looked haggard, older, wearing jeans and a wrinkled t-shirt. She sat without ordering anything. "Tyler's in serious trouble." "I'm aware. He committed multiple felonies." "No, Brianna, it's worse than you know." She pulled out her phone, showing me screenshots. "I went through his computer after the arrest. He's been planning this for months. Look." The emails made my blood run cold. Tyler had been corresponding with Marcus about my property since I'd bought it. They'd discussed various schemes to force me to sell, from tax liens to fake code violations. The wedding was just the latest attempt. "There's more." Melissa scrolled to another folder. "He's been collecting information about your finances. Your salary, your savings, your credit score. He has a whole file labeled Brianna House Project." "Why are you showing me this?" She met my eyes for the first time. "Because I realized something today, watching him get arrested. We've been horrible to you. Not just about the house, but for years. You succeeded where the rest of us struggled, and instead of being proud, we tried to tear you down." I stayed silent, not trusting myself to speak. "Did you know Rachel never even wanted a beach wedding?" Melissa continued. "She wanted a small ceremony at the botanical gardens. But when Dorothy suggested your house and Mom got excited about impressing everyone, she went along with it. The whole thing spiraled from a casual comment to this disaster. That doesn't excuse—" "No, it doesn't. I'm not making excuses. I'm trying to explain how sick our family dynamic is. Do you know what Mom said when you bought your house? She said you were showing off, trying to make the rest of us look bad. Dad called you uppity. Tyler—" She swallowed hard. "Tyler said you didn't deserve it. That if anyone should have a beach house, it should be him as the only son. He actually said that multiple times. He's been seething about it since day one. The loan fraud that was his idea of justice. Taking what he thought should have been his anyway." I stared at my coffee, processing this information. "So what now? What do you want from me?" "Nothing. I'm not here to ask for anything. I'm here to warn you. Tyler's not done. Even from jail, he's planning something. He mentioned a cousin who works in county records. Something about deed transfers. I don't understand it all, but you need to be careful." "Why should I trust you?" Melissa laughed bitterly. "You shouldn't. I've given you no reason to. But David's threatening divorce if I don't distance myself from this toxic mess. And frankly, he's right. We've become people I don't recognize. Entitled cruel criminal." She stood to leave. "Check your property records regularly, and maybe when this all dies down, we could try to build something healthier. Or not. I'd understand if you never want to see any of us again." She left before I could respond. I sat there for another hour trying to process everything. The conspiracy went deeper than I'd imagined. This wasn't just about a wedding, it was about systematic attempts to steal what I'd earned. My phone rang. Jennifer. "Brianna, I just got off the phone with the DA. They're taking the fraud case very seriously. With the evidence we've provided, plus what they found on his devices, Tyler's looking at significant time. But here's the interesting part, he's trying to make a deal." "What kind of deal?" "He claims he has information about a larger family scheme involving your property. Says multiple family members were involved in trying to force a sale. He wants immunity in exchange for testifying." "Of course he does." I rubbed my temples. "Let me guess, he's throwing everyone under the bus to save himself." "Essentially. But here's the thing, if what he's saying is true, this goes beyond simple fraud. We're talking conspiracy, organized attempt to steal property worth over $1 million. That's serious federal crime territory." "What should I do?" "Nothing. Let the DA do their job. But be prepared, this is going to get uglier before it gets better. Your entire family might be under investigation." After we hung up, I drove aimlessly, eventually finding myself at the beach. Not my beach, but a public one where families played and couples walked hand in hand. Normal people living normal lives without their relatives trying to steal their homes. My phone buzzed with notifications. The local news had posted a follow-up story, "Beach House Wedding Crasher Family Fraud Scheme Exposed." Someone, probably a guest, had provided them with more details. The story now included the fake social media posts about a family estate and quoted unnamed sources about the attempted forced sale. Then came the text that changed everything. From an unknown number, "Check your mail, R." R for Rachel. I drove to my office where Coastal Elite had been forwarding my mail. In the stack was a manila envelope with no return address. Inside a USB drive and a note in Rachel's handwriting, I recorded everything. "I'm sorry." I plugged the drive into my laptop. Audio files, dozens of them. Family meetings I'd never attended. Conversations about my house. And there, clear as day, was the evidence that could bury them all. "She's too soft to fight back," my mother's voice said. "We'll wear her down. We always do." "The house is worth at least $1.5 million, Tyler added. "Even split 5 ways, that's $300,000 each, for doing basically nothing." "We deserve it," Aunt Dorothy chimed in. "We're her family. What's hers should be ours." But the most damning was my father. "If she won't sell willingly, we'll make her life hell until she does. Start with the wedding. Make her look like the bad guy, then escalate. She'll crack eventually. She always has." File after file of conspiracy-planned manipulation and casual cruelty. Rachel had recorded it all, apparently growing uncomfortable with the scheme, but too weak to stop it. Until now. The final file was different. Just Rachel's voice crying, "Brianna, I know you'll probably never forgive me, and I don't blame you. But you were right. This isn't what family does. I'm leaving California. James and I are moving to his mother's hometown in Connecticut. I wanted you to have proof of what they planned. Maybe it'll help you heal, or maybe it'll just help you in court. Either way, you deserve the truth. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to stand up to them. I'm sorry for everything." I sat in my dark office surrounded by evidence of my family's betrayal and felt something I hadn't expected: relief. Not satisfaction or vindication, but pure relief. The masks were finally off. The pretense of family love had been stripped away, revealing the ugly truth underneath. They'd never loved me. They'd tolerated me as long as I was useful, as long as I stayed in my place. The moment I'd succeeded beyond their expectations, I'd become a target. But their greed had backfired spectacularly. In trying to steal my house, they'd lost everything: their reputation, their freedom, their family bonds. And I'd gained something precious: clarity. My phone rang one more time. David again. "Brianna, I just wanted you to know. Melissa and I are leaving town. Getting away from all this, starting fresh. She showed me everything, and I'm disgusted. This isn't the family I married into. I'm sorry for all of it." "It's not your fault, David." "Maybe not directly, but I enabled it by staying silent. Never again. Take care of yourself, Brianna. You deserve so much better than what you got." As I drove back to my temporary lodging, I made a decision. Tomorrow I'd give Jennifer the USB drive. Let the authorities sort out the criminal charges. Let justice take its course. But tonight I'd mourn. Not for the family I'd lost, I'd never really had them, but for the family I'd wished for, the one that would have celebrated my success instead of trying to steal it. The beach house stood empty on its cliff, guarded by security, waiting for its owner to return. And someday I would. But first I had to finish what they'd started. The war was almost over. Time to count the casualties and rebuild from the ashes. 1 month later, I stood on my deck, breathing in the salt air I'd missed so desperately. The October sun painted the ocean in shades of gold and turquoise, and for the first time in weeks, I felt peace settling into my bones like warmth. The legal proceedings had moved with surprising speed once Rachel's recordings were submitted as evidence. The FBI had actually gotten involved, apparently conspiracy to commit property theft. Over $1 million triggered federal attention. Tyler took a plea deal: 3 years in minimum security and full restitution in exchange for testifying against the others. Mom and Aunt Dorothy received 2 years probation and hefty fines. Dad got 18 months house arrest. The investigation revealed they'd been planning variations of this scheme since the day I'd closed on the house. But I wasn't thinking about them today. Today was about new beginnings. "Brianna," a voice called from inside. "Where do you want the banner?" I walked back through the French doors to find Sarah, one of my co-workers who'd become a true friend through this ordeal, holding up a handmade sign, "Welcome to the Boundary Brigade first official meeting." "Over the fireplace, I think." I smiled, watching as she and 3 other women hung the sign. What had started as a joke, me calling us the Boundary Brigade when venting about family drama, had evolved into something real. After my story went viral, I'd received hundreds of messages from people dealing with similar situations, entitled families who felt ownership over their relatives' success, children whose parents demanded access to homes, money achievements they hadn't earned, siblings who believed that blood meant unlimited access to your life. So I'd started a support group. What began as a small online forum had grown into in-person meetings. Today was our first official gathering at my house, the house I'd fought so hard to protect. "This place is incredible," murmured Amanda, a soft-spoken teacher whose parents had tried to force her to put them on the deed to her condo. "I can see why they wanted it so badly." "Thank you. But it wasn't about the house, really. It was about control. About them believing they deserved what I'd earned simply because we shared DNA." The doorbell chimed. More members arriving. Soon 15 women filled my living room, each with their own story of family entitlement and boundary violations. We shared experiences, strategies, and most importantly, validation that protecting ourselves wasn't selfish, it was necessary. "The hardest part," said Jennifer, not my lawyer, but another group member, "was accepting that the family I wished for never existed. I kept hoping they'd change, see my side, respect my boundaries, but they only saw what they wanted to take." Nods around the room. We'd all been there, clinging to hope that our families would choose love over greed, respect over entitlement. "But here's what I learned," I said, standing by the windows overlooking the ocean. "Family isn't about blood. It's about choice. Every person in this room chose to be here today, chose to support strangers who understand what you've been through. That's more family than I ever had growing up." As the meeting progressed, I found myself sharing the full story for the first time, not just the facts, but the feelings. The guilt that had eaten at me even as I protected what was mine. The grief of losing relationships, even toxic ones. The fear that I'd end up alone because I'd chosen property over people. "But you didn't choose property over people," Sarah interjected. "You chose self-respect over exploitation. There's a huge difference." By the time everyone left promises to meet again next month, my house felt different. Warmer. It was no longer just my sanctuary, it was a place where others could find strength too. That evening, I sat on my deck with a glass of wine, laptop open, working on something new. The support group had inspired me to write about my experience, not for sympathy or revenge, but to help others recognize the signs of family financial abuse. My blog post, "When Family Becomes a Four-Letter Word," had gotten 50,000 views in its first week. The rental income from Coastal Elite had more than covered my legal fees, and I'd used the surplus to establish a small fund, helping people escape financially abusive family situations. It wasn't much yet, but it was a start. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but the message made me smile. "Brianna, it's Rachel. I'm in Connecticut now, working at a library, living quietly. James and I got married at City Hall, just us and 2 witnesses. I wanted you to know I'm in therapy, working on understanding why I let myself get pulled into the toxicity. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted to thank you. Your strength in standing up to them gave me the courage to leave. I hope you're happy. You deserve it." I didn't respond. Some bridges were meant to stay burned, but I was glad she'd found her own path away from the poison. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, I reflected on the journey. 6 weeks ago, I'd been the family doormat expected to sacrifice my dreams for their comfort. Now I was a homeowner who defended her castle, a leader helping others do the same, and most importantly, someone who'd learned that no is a complete sentence. The cost had been high. I'd lost my biological family, faced public drama, spent thousands on legal fees, and endured stress that had aged me 5 years and 5 weeks. But the gains immeasurable. I'd gained self-respect, true friends, a chosen family who understood boundaries, financial security, and the knowledge that I could survive anything if I stood my ground. My grandmother had been wrong. Money hadn't mattered more than family. Self-respect had mattered more than manipulation disguised as family. The waves crashed against my private beach, a rhythm as constant as my heartbeat. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new members to the support group, new stories of survival. But tonight, I was exactly where I belonged, in my house on my terms, surrounded by the peace I'd fought to protect. The doorbell rang one more time. I found a delivery on my porch, a small potted orchid with a card. For the bravest woman I know, your real family is proud of you. The Boundary Brigade. I carried the orchid inside, placing it on the mantel under our banner. In the kitchen, I poured another glass of wine and raised it in a silent toast. To boundaries, to chosen family, to the house that taught me my worth. And to everyone still fighting their own battles, you're not selfish for protecting what's yours. You're not wrong for demanding respect, and you're definitely not alone. The moon rose over Monterey Bay, full and bright, illuminating the path I'd carved for myself. It hadn't been easy. Growth never is. But as I settled into bed in my hard-won home, I knew one thing for certain. Some prices are too high to pay even for family, and the cost of keeping toxic people in your life, that's the highest price of all. The waves sang me to sleep a lullaby of victory and peace. Tomorrow I'd wake up in my house on my terms, ready to help others find their own strength. But tonight, I simply celebrated the lesson it had taken me 32 years to learn. The only person you need permission from to live your life is yourself. And that truth, that's worth more than any beach house. Thank you so much for joining me on Brianna's journey. Have you ever had to set firm boundaries with family members who felt entitled to your success or belongings? How did you handle it? And what did you learn from the experience? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel for more stories about standing up for yourself and finding your chosen family. And if you know someone who needs to hear that, it's okay to protect what's theirs, please share this story with them. Remember, setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's self-care. You deserve respect, peace, and the right to enjoy what you've worked hard to achieve. Stay strong and know that you're not alone in this journey. Until next time, this is your reminder that no is a complete sentence and family isn't about blood, it's about respect.